So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today, Elevate Final Learnings, hosted by Chris Perrin, Program Developer at ESO. So my name is Amber Hawes, and I'm the Senior Communications and Marketing Lead here at ESO. So before we get started, I just wanted to give you a few instructions. At the right-hand side of your screen is your GoToWebinar dashboard. There you can ask questions. If it's a technical question, I will try my best to assist you. And if you have any questions about the content, feel free to just type them in there and I'll ask Chris the questions throughout the webinar as well as at the Q&A session at the end. So I will just give you a brief introduction to Chris in case you don't already know him. As our program developer, Chris is working to implement various ESO projects. Previously, Chris worked as an essential skills consultant at Douglas College and as an employment counselor at the Vancouver YWCA. He has a master's degree in public administration from Queen's and a Bachelor of Arts from Concordia. So without further ado, Chris, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Amber, and welcome everybody to the final Elevate webinar. And the project is now has wrapped up, and it's been quite exciting, and I'm excited to share what we've done with you in this final meeting. As Amber mentioned, please don't hesitate to ask any questions throughout. I'll usually stop at the end of each sort of section, how I've sort of organized the slides to ask for questions. But please don't hesitate. I quite enjoy it when people interrupt with questions. It makes it a little more personal than me just talking to my PowerPoint. How I've organized things today, it's going to be about an hour. We've got some welcome and introduction right now. Do a little bit project overview just to give people, some of you, I was going through the list, and I know some of you have followed the project from its beginning. Others may not have, so I'll try and get everybody on the same page and up to speed on what we did. We'll talk about the evaluation, what we looked at, some outcomes and findings, and finally the learnings, and leave some time for questions. And but again, please don't hesitate to interrupt throughout with questions. First of all, before I get too far into this, I'd just like to thank our funder, the Government of Canada, specifically the Department of Employment and Social Development, and the Office of Adult Learning, Literacy, and the Essential Skills Program. They funded this project, and very generous with their time and their support and their patience as we move through this 2-year project. And so I just really wanted to thank them, and it's very much appreciated. So just to give people a little overview of the project, what we wanted to, ESO over 2 years ago, I guess, came up with the idea to pilot sort of a demand-driven workforce development model that integrated training that included essential skills, soft skills, and then job-specific technical skills. And what the idea was to try and sort of mimic what other successful projects that have happened in the States, things like Work Advance or iBest, where training organizations have worked closely with employers to determine exactly what people need to get into the labor market in specific and growing industries. And so that's what Elevate tried to do. We wanted to, our target was to move people who had barriers to employment, who had low educational attainment, had been out of the workforce for quite a while, into jobs in the food processing industry. Ontario's food processing industry has been growing in recent years. We export food all over the world. It's quite amazing, having now toured a number of factories. It's amazing what we can do and where we can send it. And they're constantly in demand of workers. And so we wanted to try and help meet this demand by finding people who were not currently in the labor market, train them up, and get them into jobs. So originally, for those of you who followed us from the start, the idea was to train 250 people across the province in 10 different sites. So 10 sites, about 25 people per site. As the project evolved, we saw that this the initial plan wasn't realistic, and so we adapted as we went quite significantly, and we'll find out through the presentation. And we ended up training people in 6 different sites. We did 9 different trainings, and you can see from the map here that we trained people in Strathroy, Ontario, Stratford, Woodstock, Toronto, Oshawa, and Trenton, in the Trenton-Belleville area. We did, let's see, 3 cohorts in the Belleville area, and I guess, yeah, 3 in Belleville and 1 each everywhere else. So I now just wanted to, I guess before I begin, what we finalized was a 6-week training curriculum with a 2-week work placement. So the model was that people would spend 3 weeks in the classroom learning, doing in-class learning about the food processing industry, getting the soft skills they needed, getting the essential skills they needed, and then a 2-week job placement where they were placed with an employer. And finally, after the 2 weeks placement, they would come back to the classroom, do some wrap-up, do some job search, do some reflection, and then ideally move into a job. And I'll just now talk a bit about the evaluation process we used. We had independent evaluators who conducted the research, and we prodded and picked and poked everybody associated with the project. And I know there's some people who helped us administer, some training partners on the call right now, so thank you, and I apologize for subjecting them to some pretty rigorous questions and evaluations. For those of you who have followed the project from the beginning, you may remember that initially we were planning on testing 2 training models with using a quasi-experimental control group to determine the effectiveness of the Elevate program. We ended up having to sort of change course from this midstream when we realized that it was unfeasible for this project, given the model, given that we were just sort of starting out. So we had to adapt. You can see the outcome evaluation and the process evaluations that the evaluators used. I think we, having read the report, and you'll get a chance to read the report too, I think you'll agree that they did a very good job of tapping into exactly what was working with the project, what wasn't working, the learnings, where we went wrong, all of these things. It just turned out, the reason we had to change from our initial evaluation plan was that I think this is one of the big learnings for me, and having talked to other similar programs. I think now doing the evaluation while you're starting a project is very difficult. It's best, I would say, to start the project, get it running for a year or 2, have some cohorts moving through, know what you're doing, sort of figure out the changes you need to make to the curriculum, the changes you need to make to the model, all that sort of thing, and then come in with the rigorous evaluation process to see what's working and what's not. Because you really want to, before you sort of agree to do a really rigorous evaluation with control groups and everything, I think you really need to see exactly what you're doing first, and if it's even worth evaluating. So, but for what we did, I think the evaluation process that we ended up with really works well. I'll be going through some of the findings in this presentation. To give you an idea of the participants, there were 121 participants recruited, 103 started the program, and 84 completed Elevate, 71 participated in a post-training interview, and 31 were interviewed 2 months after they completed the program by the evaluators. And so, as you can see, that's quite different, much lower than our target numbers, which I believe were 250 starting, 225 finishing the program, and then 195 completing or being employed after 3 months. Again, I think we bit off a little more than we could chew when we planned the program. And initially, we were planning to have 10 cohorts of 25, which obviously equal 250. In the end, we found that for this learner group, people who maybe not had so much success in the labor market or in school and have some difficulties in the classroom setting, classes of 10 to 15 work much better. And also, it was very difficult to recruit having just started a program in a community. So initially, as I mentioned, the plan was to do 10 different sites across the province. What worked much better was to do repeated cohorts in one site, because, and I'll get into this more later, but to really build the trust of all the people who need to, refer people, that, the word of mouth that has to happen, advertising. You need to build sort of a bit of a brand and a following and build trust with the community before people really sort of take on the program. So that was a learning, and that really hampered our recruitment efforts. So just to give you some demographics of the people who participated, you can see the people of all ages. A few skewed a little younger than older, and I think this had to do somewhat with the fact that food processing can be quite a physically demanding job. And so if you, a lot of the people who we were recruiting, that type of people who've been out of the labor market, low education attainment, have had rough or difficult lives. Once you get to sort of 45 plus, you may not be in the best physical condition. So maybe slightly geared to the young, but other than that, everybody seemed to handle it very well. We had one person who had a heart attack in the course. I think he was the over 60-year-old, if I remember correctly. But he just was waiting to get his doctor's clearance, and then he was going to go back and take up his job in the food processing industry. So it was, it's different. Depends on the person, I guess. In terms of gender, gender was male, largely 62%. Language, due largely, I think, to the fact that a lot of our cohorts were done in smaller communities across the province of Ontario. We had mostly English speakers. You can see that here. Also, a graph I didn't include is that 95% identified as a visible did not identify, as a visible minority. So it was a largely white group, and again, I think that's just largely due to the ethnic makeup of smaller towns like Stratford and Strathroy and Belleville, where we did the hosting. The one cohort we did have in Toronto was very diverse, with a lot of languages and a lot of cultures and countries represented. So, in terms of education, you can see we were pretty successful in meeting our goal of attracting and recruiting people with lower educational attainment. 57% of participants had failed to move beyond high school, and only 24% had some college or more. Furthermore, 79% of our participants have been out of the labor market, out of education for at least a year, with 53% having been out of education for 6 years. So it's quite a length of time to be away from school. Source of income, our clients came largely from OW. We also had some clients from EI. A lot of people have no source of income. Some clients from ODSP. It was quite a mix. And again, may not be surprising, but 80% were unemployed. So we did allow some people who where this job, a job in the food processing industry, would be a step up from what they were currently doing. So that speaks to the 10% who were underemployed. But for the vast majority of people out of the labor force or unemployed or whatnot. So, Amber, before I move on, maybe I'll just stop for questions.
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. How many people in total went through the training?
Let me just go back to that slide here. 71.
71.
Or no, 84 completed the program, and 71 participated in the post-training interview.
Perfect. And was the curriculum modified for each employer?
No, there were not formally. There were some modifications made sort of in the classroom, but nothing formal. We tried to make the curriculum as sort of as open or general to the food processing sector as possible, and in our research we found that there wasn't too much need for specific training within like the subsectors of the food processing industry. We were working with a pork place, is slaughtered and processed pigs, and they were looking for some more. We wanted to add knife skills, but in the end we couldn't get the recruitment numbers we needed to go forward with that cohort, so we didn't make those changes. But that was an example of something we would be willing to do. But for the most part, the curriculum fit the general food processing entry-level positions quite well, I think.
Okay, and just one last question for now. How many hours was the training?
In terms of hours, I'm not sure the number of hours. It was the curriculum. It was basically full-time for 4 weeks in-class training. So I'd say maybe full-time being probably about 25 hours a week. So 100 hours.
Okay.
Sound like my last right there? I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all the questions we have for now. So I will pass it back to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So moving on to the outcomes. This was an essential skills project, and as I mentioned in previous webinars, we used the ESEE assessment from the College Sector Committee for adult upgrading. I think Sandy's on the call, so thank you, Sandy. It was a very easy tool to work with. This assessment is similar. Some of you may have had familiarity with the TOWS. What it does is it provides a score on a 500-point IELTS scale for reading, document use, and numeracy. And you can see we did a pre and post test. One of the issues we had was that it was disappointing because not all of the partner agencies who were delivering the training seemed to sort of engage or take up this assessment with the vigor we were hoping. So of the 103 people who started the program, only 76% or 76 people completed the pre-test, and of the 84 people who finished the program, only 41 completed post-test. So it sort of made our already small sample size even smaller for this assessment. So it's difficult to do sort of different, more deeper analysis, but you can see the skill gains and skill losses here. One of the things we were obviously funded by the Office of Literacy and Essential Skills, so we really set out to make this an essential skills program. However, in doing research on a job, we found that to get people employed, reading document use and numeracy were not critical to their employment, to getting a job. So as a result, we shortened the training quite significantly. Originally, we were talking about doing like a 12-week training or 16 weeks or something much longer training. Instead, we went down to a 6-week training just to give people exactly what they needed to get their foot in the door and get on a job. And so this was good. I mean, when we're dealing with people, 80% of whom are unemployed or maybe more have no source of income, I think it's sort of the morally right thing to do, get them on a job as quickly as possible, get them a source of income. In future, or what I would have liked to have done is build in literacy training once they were on the job. I think that is the place to add this sort of skills training. Get people on the job, get them some money, give them the confidence boosts that comes with getting employment and being productive in the workplace and whatnot, and then figure out a way to work in skills training this sort while they're working. So that's in future projects. That's certainly what I'll be looking at. I think working with I'm quite excited. I know some people from Alchemy Systems are on the call right now, and I'm quite excited about exploring how we can use the Alchemy system to build in some more on-the-job training for these for reading, document use, and numeracy. And so I'm looking forward to looking at that. But in terms of this project, we did not focus too heavily on skill gains in reading, document use, or numeracy. I did, just out of curiosity, I did take a quick look at those who finished the program versus those who did not in their score gains, just to see if there was any difference, and there wasn't really, as you can see from this chart. So that didn't really tell us much. In terms of the employment outcomes, of the 71 participants, the evaluators were able to collect data from 41 or 57% were offered jobs at the end of the program, and 33 people or 36% of the participants accepted those jobs. And then when the evaluators contacted people at the 2-month follow-up, they were able to reach 22 people who accepted jobs at the end of the program. And of those 22, 18 were still working in the jobs they had accepted. And the stats really varied depending on the cohort. There were a lot of factors that went into a successful cohort, and others that I think naturally some of our cohorts were more successful and than others. And where the program really worked well was in Trenton, at the Loyalist College cohorts. They ran 3, and they had 33 participants from 3 cohorts, and were able to get 29 people offered jobs and 27 people accepted. And there they really built, I know Chuck's on the call, and they were really able to build a lot of community support. And I'll talk more about this in a minute. And since the project's ended, they've actually found funding within the community to keep the program going. It's just a bit of funding. They wanted to keep the momentum going, keep all the people in place who had done it the 3 times before, so they didn't lose that expertise and that capacity. And they're looking for more funding because there's a lot of demand from employers in the area, and also a lot of people who really could use this sort of programming in the Trenton-Belleville area. I just wanted to include a couple charts here to give an idea of what participants thought of the training. You can see here that they strongly agreed with the statements that were offered. Things like training received was relevant and appropriate to the job. They felt prepared for the job. We're prepared to work in food processing. So I think we really did well in terms of what we taught people and how we prepared them for the workplace. So that piece of the curriculum was a success. And again, just shedding some light on what people thought of jobs in food processing. I think we heard from HR managers that we talked to that there was sometimes in the community people don't necessarily, food processing jobs can be tough. It's cold or hot, or you're killing pigs, or you're freezing vegetables, or what have you. But for what we've seen from the evaluators, the vast majority of people really enjoyed their job and their work environment and whatnot. So that was good to see. And just a couple quotes I'll let you read from the employers. Where they were able to form a strong working relationship with employers, they really liked the program and found value in it. Like I mentioned, they've been struggling to get recruit people, and often, you go to these plants and you see how quickly they have to, freeze corn and get it out to the grocery store, or packaged meat or whatever. These plant lines move really fast, and they're shipping things all over the world, and there's quite technical. So often HR managers are overwhelmed or extremely busy working with what they have. They don't always have the resources or the capacity to build connections into the community, and so I think they really appreciated our effort to help them out and build deeper ties to the community. And we also really appreciated how the people were trained, people that were getting on the job. So that's the end of that section. Before I move on, I'll just stop for questions again. Amber, any questions?
I do have one question regarding a particular slide. The outcome skills gain slide. It shows negative outcomes from pre to post training. Is this showing negative gains from training?
I don't think so. If I can figure out how to move my slides, I'll get back to that. There we go. I think that just has something to do with the test, or the day that people were tested. I don't think that's an accurate reflection of people's skills. I think there's a lot that goes into testing, and it just so happened that some people didn't do as well on the test at the end versus the beginning. But I would suspect, I haven't looked at these numbers in too great detail, but given that the sample size was so small, I would suspect that the negative numbers, I think there's one's -7 and the other's -2 for numeracy, are well within the sort of margin of error or whatnot for a sample size that was so small.
Okay, perfect. So that's all the questions we have for now. So if you just want to continue on, and we'll get to more questions at the end.
Okay, I'll just get back to where we were. So I just wanted to now highlight some of the learnings that the evaluators came up with, and I'll try and expand on them, given my own experiences and whatnot, and hopefully maybe elicit some more questions and whatnot. One of the things I think we should have done better is really be careful about which communities we chose for this type of training, and specifically this sector. We had agreed to do the food processing sector from the beginning, so that was sort of the sector we were looking at. However, some of the communities, some of the proposals we got didn't always have the necessary support or the sort of the needed cluster of food processing companies who are looking for employees to make this sort of program work. In the early research stages of the project, we were a little too, I think it would be fair to say, we were a little too focused put too much emphasis on looking at the skills needed in a job and not enough time looking at the community and what the community needed and how it would work and who we would work with and whatnot. So there's a couple things. I mean, one of the things we found is that the lead partner, basically our model was we came up, Essential Skills Ontario came up with the idea, then we contracted out and came up with the curriculum working with Loyalist College, and then contracted out the training to different Employment Ontario offices or literacy providers or community colleges, different training providers in each community. And there was a really noticeable difference between those who really sort of saw the need in the community and wanted to build a program like this versus those who were just sort of interested in adding another program to their roster that they provided, the roster of programming that they provided in their center already. You really needed a sort of I don't know, je ne sais quoi, a desire to work with the industry, work with the different service providers, and see the value the sort of programming had, and where and when that happened, the Elevate worked really well, and where and when it didn't work as well. And it was also key to really engage the employers and have them see the value, have them have the need, and work in conjunction with them to figure out what they needed and how this sort of programming could solve their problem. And yeah, that to sort of dig a little deeper into that, we had our Chris Perrin, who's the recruiter at Essential Skills Ontario, do some social network analysis, which I will attempt to explain here. What social network analysis is that it basically maps out relationships. So he and I interviewed two different partner organizations just to try and get a sense. We got them to list like everybody they talked to in the community and their connection to that person, whether it existed before the project, whether it was like a work relationship, whether it was a personal relationship, whether the relationship began because of this program, and then he took that data and mapped it. And so you can see this was one group. Anywhere it says high, that was a high like a strong relationship. Whereas if it's medium, it wasn't a strong relationship, and there's no lows on this example, but if it was listed as low, then it was a very sort of tenuous tie. And so you see for this example, the project lead really sort of relied on the people she already knew and had strong relationships with, and didn't really make any connections outside of her immediate circle of people she knew. Whereas if you look at another example, you can see how the map works. It goes all over the place and builds on a lot of medium connections, and the colors represent different types of organizations. So I think the light blue is employers, and the pink is government, I believe. But this just represents like how much more networking and sort of sales and community building was involved in getting an integrated training program like this off the ground and successful. So that was one of the key takeaways. Was really a lot of it depends on the capacity of the organization, and not just the capacity, but also their sort of will to make it happen. A couple other learnings. As I just mentioned, the relationships that need to be built take time, and it takes time to build that sort of deep partnerships and capacity. And this project being 2 years and kind of it could have used more time, I guess. We got off to a slow start, and then to try and run it sort of concurrently across the province was a bit of a stretch. It taxed our resources, and whereas I think had you built it in each individual community sort of organically and allowed it to sort of continue in that community and allow those relationships to take root and the successes to build on themselves, that momentum to grow, that would have been a much better strategy. And that's what happened at Loyalist. As I mentioned, they built enough community support to keep it going, and whereas other communities, that did not happen. So in terms of screening learners, I've sort of mentioned the types of learners we were looking for: low educational attainment, long-term unemployed, difficulty attaching to the labor market. And what we found, I think like any class, is that it really need a mix of learners. To keep the class going, you need all levels of learner to ensure that the instructor doesn't have to spend too much time with one set of learner, or has enough time to focus on those most in need and allow the stronger learners to sort of take on a more leadership role. The other thing, it was important to get where the program worked well. The instructor was involved with the screening, in the screening process. So it really built that relationship from the very beginning, where the instructor wasn't as involved in the screening process, it didn't seem to work as well. So number 4, supports were a big thing. We tried to provide as many supports as possible with this program. We provided work boots where necessary, other sort of personal safety equipment. What else? We organized transportation, food. Food was a very, very big thing. What we found was a lot of participants would come to class hungry if there wasn't food available. It was also a big recruiting tool. People, even myself, they go places where there's food. So it really helped recruitment when we were providing food. And just the emotional support of having a talented facilitator be able to provide people with a sort of a steady walk while they were going through the program was important. It was a good problem-solving exercise for the classes to figure out things like transportation, to work together. We found it really built sort of a sense of community and shared purpose with the class, and it would be like carpooling organized, or people would be taking the buses or whatnot to work in class together. So a lot of, for the types of learners we had, the molehills can sort of become mountains. Things that may seem simple at times can become quite difficult. They may not know, have the experience to deal with things like being sick on the job or whatnot. So it was important to provide supports to help facilitate people through these small setbacks or whatnot, so they could continue in the job and continue in the program. So that was a really big piece that was needed. The curriculum, I thought, given the feedback, the curriculum worked very well. There was, in the final report, which will be available on our website soon, there was some talk from the instructors that there was more sort of essential skills needed. We didn't see that on the job. So, like I said earlier, I think that the place, we didn't see that needed to get a job, so I think the place to provide those sorts of, that continued learning is on the job once people are employed. Figure out a way to do that. Otherwise, employers seem very happy with how people are trained. The participants seem to really enjoy through training. The instructors seemed quite pleased with it as well. So all in all, it went quite well. I'll give a little plug to Loyalist, who has been working very hard on the curriculum. And they did a very good job developing it and figuring out what was needed and then revising it as it went along. And also, I'll give another plug to Alchemy Systems, which was a very big, I think all instructors really enjoyed using the Alchemy Systems videos and the learners as well. It turned out to be a very effective training tool. Alchemy is a company based out of Austin that does they have a sort of a computer-based training program for focus mostly on employers to train their staff, but we used it in the classroom and it worked out really well. We used little remotes, as you can see in the picture, to interact with videos, and the participants really found that to good because the videos are very good and very informative and give real-world examples of what would happen on a food processing floor and how to resolve conflicts or deal with safety or diseases or whatnot, all sorts of different things. So that really worked out well. And Alchemy was very supportive of the project, so thank you. I know there's a couple of people on the call from Alchemy, so thank you very much for all your support. Their customer service is amazing too. In terms of program delivery, it was really critical to have an appropriate placement. There were a couple cohorts that didn't necessarily have the needed number of food processors, or didn't have food processors who wanted to participate in the program, so they ended up finding placements in other areas. There was one cohort didn't actually do the placements at all, and where these happened, it really, I think, hurt the program, because why participate in a training program for food processing if you're not going to be set up with a job in food processing? From the interviews I read of the evaluators, you could tell that students were really disappointed and it's disappointed that they didn't have a job. So it's really important to get a placement where people are able to see a future and see a potential job. The other thing is in that placement, it was important to keep the Elevate participants relatively close, so that they always had somebody or people they recognized and knew, and sort of a bit of a built-in support network, so they weren't just tossed on the line with a bunch of strangers, and to have somebody who was there to supervise them and answer any questions and just sort of support them in their first time in a while in the workplace. And also what we found as the program went along was that it was good to sort of build up the hours people work. So the 2-week placement, so maybe start with a 2-hour day or a 4-hour day, and then build up until like a 5-hour day, and then a 6-hour day, and then finally an 8-hour day. So they entered the workplace gradually, just to get up to speed and not be too overwhelmed and exhausted and whatnot. One thing with the curriculum we could have done is building more sort of a little bit more exercise into the curriculum. Might have helped to have a bit people standing around a bit more or whatnot. It was quite active already, but that might have been something that might have helped a bit. And then finally, what was really important is just to celebrate the success. It was really nice. The cohorts that did really emphasize on having graduation. It was really nice. People brought their kids and brought their parents and brought their significant others, and sometimes people from the community would speak, and there'd be little speeches and whatnot, and certificates given, and people really enjoyed that. People who hadn't, I think it was really important for people who haven't necessarily had the success in the workforce to see the accomplishment and other people celebrate that. So that was really good. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I do have one question here, and it's regarding a specific slide. If you are able to go back to your learning slide that shows the networked connections to the project lead.
Okay. Yep. I'm trying to explain that. Which one do they want?
Yeah, I think this one. What exactly are we looking at, and what do the different colors represent?
I will. They that would be best if they just read the report. There's a report that was done up on this information. I can't speak to it with any authority. The colors represent different types of organizations, and the words high or medium in this case represent the type of relationship. I should have, when I was in the middle of it, I realized I should have included the description of the colors, but I didn't. So yeah, it's best to just read the report where this information is outlined and it goes into a lot more detail. But I just try to represent the fact that the relationships and the network really made a big difference in how successful the program was or not.
Okay, sounds good. So what I will do for everybody is I have that document and I will send out a email after the webinar is done, and I will link to that specific report as well as other final Elevate reports that people can review. And if technology does not fail us, I will also send a link to the recording of this webinar if you need to refer to it in the future. So expect that later on this afternoon. Right now I don't have any other questions. If anybody does have any other questions, I will also include Chris's email address if you'd like to follow up with him directly or contact him for whatever reason. And I think we'll probably end here since I don't see any questions. And again, I will be sending out an email with links to all of the final Elevate documents, videos, webinar, etc. So I just wanted to thank everybody for taking the time today to join us for the Elevate webinar and what is unfortunately going to be Essential Skills Ontario's final webinar. So thank you very much for attending, and Chris, thank you very much for presenting and for working on the project over the last couple of years. And I'm going to end it there, so thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, and thank everybody for their interest in the project.
Okay.
I really appreciate it.
Great, thank you so much.
Amber, can you keep it going?